So I'm Stephen Landsiedel. I am a cold case detective here in Maui. Been a police officer out here for 9 years, coming up on 10. Previously, I'm from Arizona, worked for YCSO. Did that for 5 years before transitioning out here. So my presentation's more on basically my life story and like I'm assuming the other presentations that I missed because I had to get a few hours of sleep. Um, it's going to be very similar and touching. I'm going to try to keep it informative, but also brief. Please reach out. Please send messages and everything else. I like that interaction. I do better engaging like that than I do just going off slides. So I'm going to start with it's not the first traumatic event, but it's one of the bigger ones. So I served 13 years in the Army, did some active duty time. The rest was National Guard for Arizona. I deployed to Iraq 2009 to 2010. Um, it the transition it wasn't a culture shock when I got into the military. I come from a military family, so I was very used to the structure, the way of life, and uncles, other people being gone constantly, whether it be for training or deployments. Um, so when I deployed in 2009, we started mobilization. I was 19, turned 20 right before we hit country, boots on the ground. And then I turned 21, not even a week after coming home. I was almost there a full year. I did volunteer to stay for another year when they asked for volunteers. That just fell through because they didn't need extras. While I was over there, I did encounter multiple combat scenarios. Um, whether it be IEDs, rockets, small arms fire. Um, that was kind of it was life changing. 19, 20, you know, you think you understand the world and how to get through it and what's going on, but the reality is you don't, and most 19, 20-year-olds don't have the tools and how to cope with things like that. And the way the military works, for those of you that have been in, I'm sure you can agree with this, is that it's here's water, take Tylenol, drive on, suck it up. So when you do have the chance to try to process, it's very awkward. You become reclusive, you try to do it in private because you don't want to look weak, you don't want to sound weak. And the reality is that we got to look out for each other, as the last presentation said as well. Um, Throughout my military service, I had lost multiple friends to suicide. Uh, you don't you don't see the signs like in the last presentation, the pictures of after the OIS that his son had. It's true. You don't. We put on a face, we put on something, and we just push through it, even though we're struggling. And it's hard because you don't see it coming. I never thought those individuals would have taken their own lives. I am going to be very direct. I'm going to say some things. I hope it doesn't offend anybody, but this is real, this is raw, and that's how I want to present it to all of you. Um, with those traumatic events, when I came home, uh, I didn't want to talk to my mom. My mom understood a lot because she worked for a recruiter, so she understood what things meant on the uniform, whether it be medals or ribbons. Like she had a good understanding, and her and I actually got into an argument over it, and it took me 4 years to apologize because I was in denial. I was in denial that I changed. I just wanted to feel like I fit in with society again, like I was a part of it, and I never got that feeling. Even to this day, I still don't have that. When you see me smiling and happy, I am happy and I'm smiling, but there is still a constant want to feel a part of society. I do feel alienated in a way, and it's hard. And my fellow coworkers and former supervisor that's on here, we've talked about this a little bit because talking is good. And I chose to not accept that a long time ago. So let's fast forward a little bit. After leaving Arizona, coming out here, uh, working for MPD, I was a patrol officer for 4 years, got into traffic, DUI task force officer. I assisted with fatal motor vehicle accidents, and I even had to do some of the death notifications to family members for that. If any of you have ever experienced that, or if you haven't, it's not fun going knocking on a door at 2 o'clock in the morning and giving the worst news possible to somebody that you don't even know. And it makes it even harder on an island. And I'll touch a little bit more on that and why. But did my thing in patrol, traffic, was involved in use of force, all kinds of different traumatic events for myself. But every single motor vehicle accident that was fatal has stuck with me in some way, shape, or form. The biggest one that sticks out, and I encourage all of you to look it up at some point, is Hannah Brown. I was in patrol at that time, and I was one of the first officers on scene. The other officer went and started taking statements, talking to other individuals there at the motor vehicle collision. I went down to the car. Nobody said anything to us about another individual being trapped in the car. When I got down there, found her, and she was obvious signs of being deceased. So that one really stuck with me, and that was a real driving force for me to get into the DUI task force. And I've watched too many people, and I'm not talking down about anybody, but I've watched too many people shy away from it because it is a lot of work for us out here, and I'm sure in other states for a petty misdemeanor. But it's important because it's your family on the road, it's me, it's you, and it can happen to anybody. Um, so with my time in law enforcement as well, I was also involved in a fatal OIS a few years back, and I can openly talk about this now because the civil side is done. Um, that that was another life-changing event for me. And right before that, my divorce started, and I'm going to share some very personal things about that. Um, my ex-wife knew that the easiest way to mess with me in law enforcement was to try to get me in trouble with my job. So she would constantly hound work. She reported, she made false accusations of abuse, sex assault, and other things. Um, so I'm dealing with all of that right before my OIS. And this is going on. So I'm constantly like just in the gutter. Pardon my language, holy shit, this is life. This is what's going on. My son's gone. Like I have nothing other than my German Shepherd. That's the only person I have with me because she went back to the States. Um, with with that, I was kind of at one of my lowest points ever. Um, I did have suicidal thoughts after coming home from deployment. Um, got a little bit of help and then shied away from it. It shook my faith and everything. I started to kind of come back around. The divorce starts later on. The false accusations of being accused of things that weren't real, and it just was heavy. Everything about it was heavy, and I had to put a smile on, go do my job every day, be supportive of others, and look out for them as well, because they're the only family I got out here in Maui at the time. And it was rough. I started to drink a little bit. I shied away from substance quite a bit because I learned from deployment or coming home from deployment that that was definitely not the route to go. Um, and I kind of started climbing out of the hole a little bit, and then getting coffee with some of my coworkers, telling them, "Hey, I'll pick up any DUIs. I'll hunt in this area or look for them. I'll come to the motor vehicle collisions, check see if there's any impairment." And we were kind of game planning. And right around the corner, I start to leave. Call comes in, a male hurting himself, unsure whether there's a weapon or not. So I'm like, oh, I'm right here. Go. So I show up, get out. There's some bystanders standing by. I ask them if they call. They say yes. They point to this house where I can hear like groaning and loud noises. And so I walk that way. And then the individual stands up and he tells me he has a gun, which causes me to draw mine as he draws down on me or indicates with his hands that he's pointing a weapon at me as he's telling me he has a gun multiple times. I can clearly see that it's not a weapon. So I try to talk him down. He goes in the house, comes running out. and is holding an object like he's going to stab me with it. And I discharged my firearm multiple times. And where I'm going with explaining this is the hardest part about that for me was is the scrutiny. And it wasn't just the public. I stayed away from social media. I stayed away from the news. I did everything I could to isolate myself what I thought was healthy at the time, because I knew it was just going to continuously drum up feelings and emotions. And but it wasn't the public's perception of it that really messed with me. It was my coworkers. And they're not I I don't blame them for asking because everybody's curious, we're human, but having a supervisor question you, why did you go to that call? You're a traffic officer and other things, it makes it really hard. Like here I am trying to do my job, doing the best I can. I'm a police officer first, not a DUI task force officer. That comes secondary, and it's life threatening. So that weighed really heavy. And I started to get even more depressed because of the allegations on top of the OIS, and just everything going on was weighing on me to the point that I was losing it. I had to sit at home. That wasn't doing me any good. I got into gardening. I tried to do things to help with my mental health and to pull me out of it. And it was just going downhill bad. And I'm sure some of my coworkers that are in here would attest to. I probably look like I'd been living on the streets for a while. I just didn't care about shaving, even though I have this right now. Um, I no longer had a drive to take care of myself. Um, I was assigned a counselor after the OIS, or a therapist, and it just wasn't the right click or fit for me. That's how I met Dr. Dara. Dr. Dar and I talked, and we still talk to this day about it. And I have highs and lows with things all the time about my OIS. But it was really the community within work that um, unfortunately made it worse. The questioning, the asking, the I know most of them, their hearts and everything were in the right place, but the reality is that it just drug me down even farther. And on the flip side, there was a small group of close friends, coworkers that saw it for what it was and were supportive. And one of the other hardest parts about that is when you're involved in an OIS, you can't talk about it. And you can't talk to family or friends because most of them don't understand where you're coming from or what you're going through. And it's hard to explain to them. But the people you work with who go through the negative day in and day out with you and go to these calls that thankfully usually end up not being anything serious, but are there when it is serious. Those are the ones you want to connect and talk to, trauma bond, if you will. And it can be very helpful. But when you're told you can't talk to them about it because you're being investigated for a homicide, because that's what a fatal shooting is, even from our job, it's rough because talking is important. As Bill said in the last presentation, like keep them talking. And anybody that knows me will know that I will talk your ear off. And that's because that's how I purge. That's how I vent. That's how I heal. And it's very healthy. I also believe in humor. So I want to try to make it a little lightly in this because it is rough to talk about for anybody. And I'm getting better at expressing that and showing my feelings with all of this. Um, So after I got cleared to come back to work, thank you, Dr. Dara, for that. The Lahaina wildfire happened. I went from being out worrying about allegations, worrying about what's happening with the OIS, until I got cleared from that as well, saying it was justified. Um, I get stuck in our forensics facility, which is our morgue. And it's all hands on deck. It gave me drive and purpose to be back at work. Started helping me pull out of the depression and the hole that I was in. And my job there was a part of the Mint team, or the Mint task force, which is morgue identification notification. So a lot of mental health things going on, jump right back into it. And here you need to help recover, identify these individuals, try to find the missing or the ones that are still missing on our list. And then on top of that, you guys are going to go and notify the families once we positively ID them. And that never gets easier. No matter how many times you have to go tell somebody that their loved one is passed. Um, but I really saw the gravity of it on an island. It's not, it's kind of like a small town in the mainland or the States, but the difference is we're surrounded by water on all sides. So I've seen these people in the grocery store. I see them wherever I go. Most are thankful. Others look at you as evil because you delivered the worst news ever to them, and you can't escape it. So that becomes challenging as well, on top of the other traumatic things and I'm going to share a little detail, but I'm sure you all can figure out that most of the remains were not whole and they were charred. We would recommend no open view casket, and it's rough telling people that because you hope that they want to remember their loved one for who they were and not what is left. And seeing that day in and day out, it sticks with you. The smell, everything, like they're all triggers for me, and I recognize that. So after all that happened, cold case unit was formed. Me and my counterpart, we got assigned to it, and we're running strong with it. But that all came about because of what we did with the line of fire. And still to this day, him and I talk about it. We have what we like to call mental health meals where the group of us will go out, we'll go to a restaurant, sit down, laugh, have a good time, and check in on each other. Um, because it's life altering. And you can see who's struggling, you can see who's healing, and we pick each other up. Sorry. So after that, I really I realized that I was struggling still and I really needed to change and I really needed to pull myself in a different direction. Ever since deployment, I was in denial of things, as I said, and I I chose not to seek help until kind of around the OIS and then mainly after we slowed down with what we were doing with the Lahaina fire. Um, I'm a big advocate for mental health. I'm a big advocate for talking to people. So I got into peer support here with MPD. Um, the culture behind it is still very, very strong. Like there is a change with seeking mental health, but because of first responders and the mindset very similar to the military is that it's no, I don't need that. I'm strong enough to get through this, or you know, that it's showing weakness, or I'm too afraid to do it because I don't want people to know my personal side. And that's a big reason why I'm willing to share with you the personal things that I've gone through and to the point of even what my ex-wife was alleg making allegations against me with. Um, it it's a struggle. Life is always ups and downs, and as Forrest Gump said, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. But with all this compounding trauma, um, just back to back, and for everybody that is a first responder in here, that goes and sees the negativity day in and out, day in and day out with society, and it makes us jaded. It makes us forget that there are still good people out there and that we do need to take care of ourselves. So one of the things I really started to do is I love working out. It's it's my let out for sure. Like when I want to rage or when I'm sad, like it recenters me. I do a little bit of meditation, not much of that. That's not really my style, even though I try. And I talk to Dr. Dara, I talk to other mental health, and I've just become more comfortable with speaking to people about it. It used to be if you were close to me, I wouldn't talk to you, but now I can. I can talk to the loved ones. I can talk to my close friends about things very openly. Um, some of the other symptoms and things is, as you saw, like I kind of touch my chest because I have chest pain. I still have physical reactions to things that are traumatic and get brought up with the emotions and everything else. Um, it's it's rough, and it's always something that is ongoing and will always be ongoing. You always need to strive to help yourself. And it's okay to say no to people. It's okay to say no to your supervisor when within reason, of course, but it's okay to be like, I need a break. I need to take time off. I need to take care of myself because if we're not good for each other, I'm definitely not going to be good for myself, and I can't help the public. I can't be there for somebody that is hurting and needs it as well. And I'm not going to go too much detail because it's an open investigation, but we had lost one of our sisters recently, Officer Suzanne O. I helped train her in recruit class with DUI. I was fairly close to her, even though we didn't work together very much. But we had our own little friendship and bond. She was there for me during my divorce. She was there when the allegations came out, and she was very supportive. I miss her, and she was a great human being. And with that said, I have to take care of myself with that, but I also have to be there for my coworkers and my friends because they're struggling, especially the ones that were involved. And I can't get lost in just taking care of myself, and I can't get lost in just taking care of them. You have to have balance with things. So I encourage people to talk. I encourage people to just reach out. I encourage people to work out. I encourage people to do anything they can that has a excuse me, that has a positive outcome and reflection for them that helps them process and helps them move forward because it's important. The loss of a loved one or a close friend is never easy, and we have to look out for one another. With all of this, there is a sense of purpose that I think we should all have and a drive. It is to continue to work forward to changing the stigma um, that will more than likely always be around, but we need to overpower that with the support and care, love, and just be persistent with reaching out to our chain of command because it's always going to change. People are going to leave, get promoted, and it's the reality, but it's unfortunate. There will be people who hold a higher status above us in our jobs, whatever job that is, not just first responders, that will not think the same way we do about that. And we just need to be persistent, and we need to do it tactfully and find a way to continue to show that no, this is important because longevity for everybody is what's necessary for the public and what's necessary for what we all do. We need to be healthy. We need to be there. Um, I go on some tangents, so I'm sorry. It's just how I work. And so some of the things I also did to overcome the OIS and other traumatic things that I had struggled with for years since 2010. Um, again, I recently just started getting the help that I really needed. I finally accepted it and I quit being stubborn. Was I did prolonged exposure, again, physical fitness, actively seeking mental health help, which I do regularly. And I regrounded myself in faith. I lost that a long time ago. because of the Middle East and other traumatic things. But I did. I started regrounding myself in faith, and I'm not saying you got to become religious or look towards faith, but I do encourage it because it does give you peace of mind and it does help you process things and become more grounded with life in general. Uh, Again, stigmatism and denial was one of the biggest things that prevented me from seeking help. I always I have the mentality that I am stronger, I can get through it, but I put that aside, and it has been very helpful in getting me through everything. Um,
Stephen,
it,
I think that's a really tough thing for people is like who can help me? You know, like I should know what to do. I am the professional, etc., etc. I think even for mental health providers and here me included, we wonder those things sometimes is like who's qualified to help me? How and some of the stuff that you've seen and been through, that you don't want to share with others because you don't want to pollute them or give them the ick, you know.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's exactly it. To a point, it's not just the stigma. Like there is, I don't want to pollute their mindset. a, in a way, an example of that would be I had a supervisor one time ask my coworkers, like, is he okay, like mentally, because he always volunteers to go in the house first when there's a gun call or something. And the reality is in my head, I've been through stuff like that. I would rather be the one that takes on that burden and shields anybody else from that mental health issue or like that harm, that trauma. I'd rather it be me. I've already been there, done that. I'm tainted in my eyes with that. So, and then being vulnerable and opening up about the trauma, like I don't want to expose anybody to my traumas because I'm afraid that it will traumatize them as well in its own way.
I know, the person that goes first through the door, in a lot of ways, we don't really think about this consciously. And, Dr. Tom was talking about conscious and subconscious, or even the unconscious. But there is almost like a rush that you still get being able to go through first. And I don't want to say that it's an active suicidal wish, but it's a passive suicidal wish sometimes that people have which is, at least if I go in and they take me out my misery, I die in a blaze of glory as opposed to, going out like a wimp, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds really bad, but you know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah. No, I mean, you and I have talked about that. Like that is a big factor, like for me as an individual and how my mindset has been, is I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory in that way than taking my own life or something else, right? So that has been why one of the other reasons why I do what I do and seek the adrenaline rush, if you will. And like if it's my time, it's my time.
Yeah, and just so people know, Stephen is a friend of mine. He's not a patient of mine. So
Yeah, sorry.
just so people know, like we've had these conversations, but
Yeah.
as a friend, because we've just chatted over the years about stuff. And I think that people do struggle with that. That people, especially when you're in the military and you're running and gunning and you're going so hard, and you come back home and then you're like, okay, what is left of life? Like this is boring.
Yeah.
I wanna feel alive. I wanna live on that edge, and I wanna do things that make me feel alive.
Yeah, exactly. Like it, as you and I have shared or talked about, like it is like I'm happy, but I feel empty inside most times, and it's not because I'm depressed. It's just the in a way, as I share with people, I miss the deployment. I want to go back because one, I feel like I left a piece of me there. Two, like life to me was easy. It's okay. I eat, I go work out, I do the mission, hope that I survive and get through whatever's coming my way, sleep, repeat. And then here it's kind of one of those things, and I think that's a big reason why I got into law enforcement was the adrenaline rush and to try to fill that void, if you will. Um, it's rough, and even first responders, and even if you weren't in the military, like this job or anybody that's been exposed to anything like this, it's rough. And unfortunately, for those of us in this career, we get exposed to it daily, and it makes it rough. And share a little bit more personal things. So hypersexuality is real. Like that is something that happens. I actually was eating lunch with Dr. Dara the last time he was here and had the conversation. And I'll openly admit it. I've dabbled in the swinger lifestyle because of it. And it's in a way, what I've come to realize is that was an adrenaline rush. I was seeking something outside of work because I needed to find something else to fill that void and the emptiness. And I mean, it was even consensual with my partner at the time, but it was just one of those things. I didn't realize that that's what I was doing until right before you and I actually spoke at lunch. I was like, oh, yeah, this makes sense why I'm choosing to go down this path.
Isn't it funny though? I mean, and a lot of first responders, as you and I chatted, they also do similar type experimentation things that, they're like, oh man, am I abnormal? Is something wrong with me? Like, why do I crave this? Why do I want this? It's to feel alive. It's
Yeah,
to,
it is.
and you just, it's hard when you don't, I don't want to say you feel dead inside and you need something to wake you up, but it's a
You,
very difficult feeling.
yeah, you are trying to feel alive. That is the exact way I would put it. You are constantly seeking to feel present, to feel like you're alive, and you're not just this robot day in and day out going through things.
Yeah,
For
and,
sure.
tied into that too, and you and I had spoken about this, is also the input of hypers, like spending a lot of money,
Yeah.
and not sleeping very much, doing risk-taking behaviors like safety issues, not only going into a house first, but even in your personal life, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, speeding, insomnia is a big one for me. I still have issues with that. But yeah, spending. Thankfully, that wasn't me. Mine was hypersexuality. But yeah, it was the spending thing gets a lot of people in trouble on top of the substance abuse, the risk taking. It's huge, and I've seen other individuals fluctuate with that when they're struggling. Um, so something else I want to share with you all is that because of all my trauma and finally putting aside the I'm stronger than this, I can get past it, drink water, drive on, is I actually am going back to school in college and I'm going to Grand Canyon University online and it's for forensic psychology. The reason I chose forensic psychology is because I wanted to understand trauma more, human behavior, and just something that might help me as an individual that I can share with others who are struggling mentally or help assist them any way I can. On top of that, it goes well with work as a cold case detective because where I have to profile cases since they're so old, like the individual suspects, and do victimology on top of other things. So it's kind of a win-win for me, is what I'm hoping for. But I never thought I'd go back to school after high school. I just figured it was always going to be the military or law enforcement after that. And because of the traumatic events, it really pushed me and gave me a drive to seek that. And along with the faith, as I said. So it's important. It's important to find your niche. It's important to find something that gives you purpose in life, makes you feel alive, makes you feel beneficial, not only to yourself, your family, your friends, but to society. Like, um, communication is big for humans and connection is big. Uh, I'm sure we've all seen it being on the cell phone and stuff is one thing to do, but actually having a conversation, sitting down and just listening to somebody because you have no idea what's going on. I've had random people when I've gone to calls just start venting to me, and I've spent more time than I probably should have because of work and have other calls stacking up. But I've taken the time for the public. I don't even know this person. I've had people, can I give you a hug, man? Like, you actually listen to what I had to say. Like, yeah. And then I've pointed people in a direction to seek mental health and do things. Even though I was giving the advice and not taking it at the time myself, I did that. And this drive with college, excuse me, this drive with college is a big push because of that. And just talking with mental health and especially with Dr. Dar, just chatting. But I'm human. I still have impulsive suicidal ideations in the sense that it just kind of pops up and I'm like, no, that's stupid. Get out of here. And that's normal, especially when you've gone through traumatic things. It's normal to have these feelings. It's normal to question yourself. It's normal to have the highs and the lows. And as Dr. Dara said, it is normal for me to experiment and for others to do the same. I encourage safety, and I encourage that if that's what you're going to do, you make sure you do it at a point that it's safe and you all are comfortable with whatever it is. But I do encourage that you seek help, and I will continuously advocate for that. And that's a big push I want to do as peer support, is continue to build upon what our team here has already started. And I encourage every agency or work to have the same and do the same because we all need it. Any questions? Anything anybody else wants to say? Like, I like interaction dialogue as Dr. Dar and I are doing right now.
Yeah, we have a few questions that came into the chat box down here. And so one of them here, I'll start with Stephanie's, is Stephen, I commend you for being vulnerable and helping to change the culture in our industry in police and fire. You are saving lives undoubtedly. Question, was there anything any peer or co-worker supervisor could have done to help you minimize the impacts of trauma or mental health decline? And thank you.
I want to say that's kind of, for me, looking at it from my standpoint, that's kind of a double-edged sword. Wanting to be a supervisor at some point because I want to push mental health and I love being there for the guys as an NCO in the military, same way. Um, but I think it's a double-edged sword because there are things I think that supervisors or peers could have done, and some did try. It's just hard when you can't talk about it because it's an investigation, especially the OIS. The other stuff outside of work, definitely. I mean, if I would have opened up and shared a little bit, I think more people would have been there to support and help guide me and give me more tools or send me in a direction that would be beneficial.
Nice. So from a peer support perspective, do you think that there is anything that a peer could get an entry into working with someone who's in crisis like that? How could a peer best approach the other peer?
Um, I to be fair, I think just approach and just start a casual conversation. You want to get them talking, as Bill said in the last slide, or last presentation, is like you get them talking and just a little bit, give them a pause, and then you keep them talking. And a lot of times you do more listening than you do speaking, and that's important because for me, when I start opening up, I'm willing to just word vomit is what I like to call it, and just let it go. And it allows me to get out and actually say things that I probably would have hid from everybody else.
Mhm. Thank you. Another question. Kerwin says, I'm grateful for your presentation. My question to you is, when did you come to the realization that you do need help? And how did this assist in how you are now? So how did that help?
So the realization was after the OIS, I started doing therapy through the VA, talking a lot about my traumatic or combat experience, and then also doing therapy on the side for work for the OIS. There was one night, which was interesting listening to Bill talk about. I had the same thing. I woke up more insomnia than really any sleep. But I woke up and I went into the bathroom and I was just in the dark staring at the mirror. I could see my silhouette, but it wasn't my silhouette. It was the individual that I ultimately had to take their life to protect myself in the public. And that was a point when I was like, holy shit, pardon my language, like, holy shit, I need help. Like I need to really I need to try to do something because this is not okay. And ultimately with that came suicidal ideations and that was the driving thing. And once I finally acknowledged it and became okay with seeking help, like I had the drive to try and actually put forth the effort, that's that was really beneficial. Then it started to slowly become a little bit easier each time I talked to somebody about it or opened up and getting their perspective on things and things I could do to help improve my mental health, whether it be physical fitness or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny, I'm thinking as you're describing this, Stephen, it's like driving a car. And if you're driving your car and you start to feel your gas line getting choked out because something is clogging inside of your gas line, you could make a choice. Either you keep driving and you drive that car for another month or 2 months with it choking out on you, or you start to look and say, man, something isn't right here, man. I'm pressing
Yeah,
the accelerator, but it ain't going.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really need to get it checked out. And I think, a fair number of people, it's not that they don't catch that there is something going on, that there are warning signs. It's like they just don't want to do anything about it. They don't want to acknowledge that something is wrong.
That is honestly, I feel, and from personal experience with it, like that is the first part, the first step. Like once you accept that something's wrong, it starts to help you look at it in a way that you can seek help, and you kind of drive your, thank you. Sorry, that's a cat. Um, it pushes you to move forward, like you said, to actually go get it looked at, checked out, and
Hmm.
it helps.
Hmm. What do you think? I know, being involved in the on the morgue side of the operation for the fires and doing all of the death notifications and sharing the grief of families that you had to give notifications to. How did you protect yourself through that process to not personalize it?
So it's hard because as first responders, we disassociate with things, and a lot of people look at us like we have a dark sense of humor, which there's some reality there too, but they think that we're heartless or cold. And the reality is we're all doing it to protect ourselves. That's why we make, unfortunately, there's dark humor jokes, other things, but for that specific instance, it was the community I had that I was working with. We all were taking care of each other, as you saw when you came, and we looked out for each other. And again, like the mental health meals is what we were doing, and it was beneficial. We talked pretty much every day about things, and to not make it personal, I don't think, to be honest, you really ever don't make it personal. There's always a small part of it that becomes personal. I won't disclose names or anything, but there was a few of them that I didn't even know. But because of what I had to do, I learned so much more about that individual's life and their family and the dynamics of things than their own family members knew. Like, and so it ultimately is going to become personal because you learn so much about an individual, even though you've never talked to them or met them. And there were days for sure where that was hard to not separate, and others it was, I have to do this job. I want to give some form of information to these families. And because sorry, I'm gonna go on a tangent. Because of it being a little bit more personal, I actually worked really hard to create a family briefing that we did for them and make it very, not, hey, we're police, fire, this is what we did. Like, I wanted dialogue. I wanted to get rid of the conspiracy theories. I wanted to help people connect, even though they didn't know who each other were, but they each lost somebody, unfortunately, in the Lahaina wildfire, and to help them trauma bond, to help them grieve, to help them process. Like that was my goal with that. And um, thankfully it went really well. And I see some of these people and they talk about how great it was to actually interact and meet, and how it was very helpful with them to move forward on things. And they have a bond because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously the uh, title of your presentation is cumulative trauma, and you surely have had quite a lot of it. What do you see for yourself in the future?
Um, Hopefully one day I can get promoted here. But I don't know. I dabble in the getting into psychology a little bit. I know I told you that I don't want to go that route, but it keeps circling back. Like there's just something that keeps drawing me back to it, and I'm okay with that. Like again, religion plays a big part in it for me, but I believe I have a purpose, even though I may not know what it is, and that things happen for a reason, even if it's unfortunate or not ideal.
I love it. I mean, the future is extremely bright for
Yeah.
you. I like going back to what Dr. Coughlin was saying. It's a script that you write in your brain for how you want the story to turn out, right? You could be the hero in your story. And I think that's a really positive thing, positive
Yeah.
psychology.
Truth. You can look at it in a negative way and keep yourself down, or you can find a way to make it positive and see the good in what you're doing. Because there's always good in something, even if it is negative. even if we don't know it right now and it's a few years down the road, there's always something positive that comes from our experiences, even if they were the worst thing in the world to us at the time.
Yeah.